I owe this city a lot. And that's why it's so weird that Donald Trump is just across the street. Because he doesn't belong in my city. But around the country, people who didn't know him as we did started to support him. They bought into his bullshit. Trump bought their votes with outrageous lies and empty promises. Somehow he even got self-styled patriots to support a man who called for terminating the Constitution.
Do you agree with his statement? If so, please comment 1 below. As the TV lights were blaring, Robert De Niro, the silver screen legend with a piercing gaze and a voice that could shake New York, suddenly threw a verbal punch straight at Donald Trump and Melania's silent figure live on air. Without mercy or hesitation, De Niro turned the screen into a battlefield, where he called Trump an alien who had infiltrated his city, a clown who bought votes with cheap lies and empty promises. From a traitor to the Constitution to a fraudster of the American people, De Niro not only attacked Trump but also made Melania, the mysterious wife behind him, face the glare of his anger. This was not just a confrontation but a satirical explosion that left the whole of America gasping. Will Trump survive De Niro's verbal knife, or will he fall back into the chaos he created?
I owe this city a lot. And that's why it's so weird that Donald Trump is just across the street. Because he doesn't belong in my city.
De Niro begins with a slight shrug, as if he has just discovered an uninvited guest at a dinner party in New York, the city he calls home. He doesn't belong in my city. This is not a direct dismissal, but a wry smile, as if Trump is a guy from the golf course in the suburbs, lost in the city center with bright blonde hair and a loud style that is not at all in tune with the sophistication here. Melania, perhaps standing by the window of a tower named after Trump, holding a glass of wine, looking down the street with a distant gaze. De Niro does not say it directly, but the way he emphasizes my city implies that both Trump and Melania are tourists in his eyes, a flamboyant couple, standing out in the heart of New York, but in a very uninvited way. From here, the story begins to move to the next scene. How does an outsider like Trump attract a crowd?
But around the country, people who didn't know him as we did started to support him. They bought into his bullshit. Trump bought their votes with outrageous lies and empty promises.
From the look of surprise at Trump's presence in New York, De Niro switches to a faint smile, like a narrator observing a crowd fascinated by a street magician. Bulls *****, the word comes out like a sigh, not too harsh, but enough to paint Trump as a talented salesman, throwing out promises that sparkle like paper money. Nice, but not real. Outrageous lies and empty promises. Trump appears as a reality TV host, always knowing how to make the audience applaud, even though no one checks to see if the prize exists. Melania, perhaps the first audience member in this circus, stands backstage with a perfect smile, like a wife supporting her husband without asking if the script is logical or not. De Niro doesn't blame her, but the way he says "we did" suggests that both Trump and Melania are an enigma that New Yorkers have already seen through, a pair of salesmen who are too good to warrant their goods. And then, from the innocent crowd, the conversation shifts to a more specific audience, patriots.
Somehow he even got self-styled patriots to support a man who called for terminating the Constitution, and on January 6th rallied an angry mob to threaten democracy, leaving death and destruction in its wake.
After mocking Trump's salesmanship, De Niro raised his eyebrows, as if he couldn't believe his conversation skills, turning self-proclaimed patriots into fans of a guy who once proposed erasing the Constitution like a failed tweet. Terminating the Constitution, a bizarre idea Trump probably uttered while eating a hamburger, making people wonder if he mistook it for a restaurant menu. January 6th was like an unplanned performance. Trump stood there, waving his arms like a director, while the crowd turned the Capitol into a chaotic stage, leaving a trail that no one wanted to clean up. Where was Melania? She was probably at the White House, adjusting a vase or choosing a dress for the evening, maintaining a calm appearance as if her husband hadn't just had a big hit, literally and figuratively. De Niro satirized Trump as a failed artist, Melania as a quiet manager, not correcting mistakes but watching the performance go downhill. But the play is not over yet. Trump wants to upgrade his role.
And now he's promising to use our own military to attack U.S. citizens. That's the tyrant he's telling us he'll be. And believe me, he means it.
from the director of The Crowd. De Niro smiled faintly as he watched Trump cast himself as the protagonist in a new adventure play. Use our own military to attack U.S. citizens. Trump transformed into an imaginary king, holding a scepter, ordering the army to turn their guns on the people, as if playing a game of chess in which he was the only remaining king. Tyrant, he's telling us he'll be. Quite an impressive self-promotion, right? Trump seemed to enjoy this role, like a B-list actress showing off in a cheap action movie. Melania, perhaps trying on a new necklace at the time, kept her expression unchanged, like a wife accustomed to her husband's fantastic scripts. De Niro did not attack her, but the way he emphasized he means it seemed to ask, have you ever advised him to stop dreaming or just let him write his script? From here, the story returns to the origins of the play, when it was all just a joke.
When Trump ran in 2016, it was like a joke. This buffoon running for president. No, never could happen. We've forgotten the lessons of history that showed us other clowns who weren't taken seriously until they became vicious dictators.
After increasingly spectacular performances, De Niro looks back on 2016 with a slight shake of his head, as if remembering the first time he saw Trump on television, a stage clown who entered politics in oversized shoes. Buffoon, the word is a hilarious label for Trump, a guy everyone thinks is more suited to being a comedic guest than a leader of a country. But clowns who became vicious dictators takes the satire up a notch. De Niro suggests that Trump might be a modern version of the ridiculous historical figures, turning from a joke to a cause for concern, without saying so. Melania, then, is perhaps the one standing next to Trump on this comedy journey, with an enigmatic smile that says, I'm just going along. But De Niro leaves the viewer wondering, does she realize what her husband is playing? Or is she just enjoying being a spectator in his circus?
We're trying to be gentlemen in this world. The Democrats, you are gangsters. You are gangsters. Fuck you.
Finally, after leading us through the journey from stranger to clown king, De Niro ends with a series of brief remarks, like throwing a few small stones at Trump's enormous ego. Little punk, Trump appears as a loner, interested in attention but not big enough to be respected, like a forgotten supporting character in his own movie. Softy, a sarcastic wink, as if beneath the tough exterior, Trump boasts is a vulnerable guy, only loud when the crowd cheers. Nobody, gentle but penetrating, as if De Niro is saying, who do you think you are? A big name on a billboard, but in the eyes of many, just a small dot. What about Melania? She may stand there, keeping her elegant appearance, but De Niro implicitly pulls her in. They are both part of the Trump play, a couple whose aura is bigger than their substance. A subtle curtain call, not loud but enough to make the audience smile at the end of this play.
You and I have something in common. We have both been immortalized on social media by our former president, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
We have, I think this might have been the first time he wrote about you. Robert De Niro, a very low IQ individual, has received he spelled two wrong, many shots to the head by real boxers in movies. I watched him last night, truly believe he may be punch drunk, and then he says, at the end, he says, wake up punchy, he says to you.
De Niro opens with a smirk, as if he has just been invited into Trump's exclusive club, where stars are honored with awkward tweets. Low IQ individual, Trump launches this comment like a self-proclaimed movie critic, but with the misspelling of two. He makes a fool of himself, like a primary school student trying to write an essay without checking for errors. Punch drunk, a sarcastic wink from Trump, as if he thinks De Niro, with decades of acting, is a fool for being punched so many times on screen. De Niro does not get angry but lets the audience see for themselves. Trump is like a failed comedy writer, trying to create drama but only making people laugh at his clumsiness. From here, the story moves to the next act, De Niro's view of Trump's true talent.
Yeah, he's so stupid. Look at the lame, inane things that he said. He's so stupid, he can't even say anything clever or smooth. He's a moron. But he's a scary one.
After letting Trump reveal himself through his silly tweet, De Niro smirks, like a director watching a leading actor forget his lines on stage. He's so ing stupid. This is not a harsh attack but a sarcastic sigh. As if De Niro is surprised that someone like Trump can stand on a big podium and not know how to say anything properly. Lame, inane things. Trump appears as a bad comedian, reading from a script scribbled on a napkin, making the audience shake their heads instead of clapping. But Scary One adds a layer of subtext. De Niro evokes the image of Trump not just as a harmless clown but as a ridiculous guy holding the microphone the wrong way, accidentally shaking the entire audience. From laughable stupidity, the story moves to the bigger question: why does this clown have an audience?
I am totally dumbfounded, baffled by that. I can't understand it. And it's a thing that we've seen over decades and decades. And he's a what's it, Tammy Faye and the other one?
Yes.
It's the same thing, give us your money.
televangelist.
Yeah, televangelist. It's just the same thing.
From his amazement at Trump's talent, De Niro shakes his head, like a social researcher trying to decipher the biggest mystery of the decade. Why are the crowds so fascinated by this guy? Dumbfounded, baffled, Trump is satirized as a strange phenomenon, a modern-day evangelist, standing on a podium, preaching the promise of salvation with a grin. The comparison with Tammy Faye and the televangelists is a subtle satire. Trump appears as a salesman of faith, holding a microphone instead of a Bible, shouting, "Give me your money, I will make America great," while his pockets are filling up and the audience is still waiting for a miracle. De Niro does not blame the crowd but lets them see for themselves. Trump is a TV star who knows how to sell but never delivers the product. From this deceptive performance, the play enters a more tense moment.
It's all an act in a certain way. It's all out of insecurity. He's deeply, deeply insecure. He is a malignant narcissist. He's a socio-psychopath. He's created some new language as far as describing somebody in his mental condition. It's so frightening and scary, and he's dangerous. We got to get rid of him.
Do you ever?
And shame on those Republicans that don't have the nerve, the balls to go after him.
After painting Trump as a ridiculous preacher, De Niro moves on to analyze the character as an amateur psychologist, but with an unmistakable ironic smile. It's all an act. Trump appears as a bad actor, wearing a mask of confidence to hide a fragile ego, as if each boast is a self-consoling hug. Malignant narcissist, socio-psychopath, these words are not harsh accusations, but winks, as if De Niro is saying, he wrote himself a villain, but he overplayed it. Dangerous takes the play to a new level. Trump is not just a clown but a ridiculous guy in power who can accidentally collapse the stage if no one stops him. "We got to get rid of him" is a gentle but penetrating call, as if director De Niro wants the audience to stand up and vote to bring down the curtain on this play. And from here, the story concludes. De Niro's look at Trump's legacy.
What do they tell their kids? What do they tell their grandkids later when it's written in history books what their role is and what they did, and they allowed him to do this? He's an outright criminal, and they're still buying it.
Finally, after leading us through the journey from silly tweet to dangerous role, De Niro ends with a slight shake of the head, as if looking into a future where Trump is just a funny line in the history books. What do they tell their kids? Trump is satirized as a lesson in reverse, a clown that future generations will ask, why did you let him act for so long? Outright criminal, not a harsh condemnation, but a shrug. As De Niro is saying, everyone saw it, but the audience still applauded. They're still buying it is the final irony. Trump is like an actor who has passed his prime but still sells tickets, thanks to a loyal crowd. Despite a worn script, De Niro does not get angry, but lets the audience laugh at this ridiculous legacy, a clown that history will remember, but no one wants to see again.
I hate bullies, thugs who use their strength to push other people around. They think they can achieve power and hang on to it by intimidating others. Sadly, sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. And now we have Trump. He's all that, about intimidation, retribution.
De Niro opens with a slight shrug, as if recalling his childhood, when bullies like to shout to scare other kids. Bullies, thugs, Trump is introduced as a familiar character from a child psychology textbook. a loudmouth who likes to shake his fist to hide the emptiness inside. Intimidation. Retribution. De Niro satirizes Trump as a guy who has appointed himself school boss, waving threats like a child swinging a toy bat, thinking that this is power. The way he says, "and now we have Trump," is like a comic sigh, evoking the image of Trump entering the political stage with a flashy style. But no one is really afraid of him as he expected. From here, the story moves to the next act, the gifts that Trump promises to give his audience.
He's going to prosecute. He's going to send you to jail for having an abortion. He's going to take your Medicare and Social Security away. He's going to deport you. He's going to send the military after you if you defy him.
From the image of the bully shouting, De Niro smirked as he listed the gift list that Trump had prepared for America, a series of threats that sounded like a B-grade horror movie script. Send you to jail for having an abortion. Trump appeared as a bogeyman in a fairy tale, threatening with strange punishments whose purpose no one understood other than to scare others. Take your Medicare and Social Security away, another generous gift, as if Trump were a reverse Santa Claus, coming not to give but to take. Send the military after you. At the peak of the performance, Trump transformed into a self-proclaimed general, waving his arms to command the army like an action movie director. Forgetting that the audience is not an extra, De Niro did not attack too much but let these threats expose the ridiculousness of Trump, a bully with an empty gift bag. And from there, the story turns to Trump's first victims.
You know who this shit works on? The MAGA politicians who are afraid of losing their power. They're so afraid of him, he's got them kissing his ass.
After mocking Trump's nonsensical threats, De Niro raises his eyebrows like an observer watching the minions kneel around their self-proclaimed boss. MAGA politicians, Trump is portrayed as a mob boss, not because of his talent but because his followers are so afraid of losing their positions that they are willing to bow down. Kissing his ass, a humorous image De Niro throws out lightly, as if Trump is a petty king in his fantasy world, sitting on a throne with his courtiers awkwardly trying to please him. The way he says this shit works on is like a wink, suggesting that Trump's bullying only works on those who are willing spectators of his play. But what about the real audience, the people? De Niro takes us to the next act, where Trump faces his real opponent.
The way to take down a bully is to look him straight in the eye and then watch him start to crumble. That's what Kamala Harris did at the debate where she totally dominated Trump, using her intelligence, her experience, her decency, and her actual plans to make life better for Americans. She reduced Trump to the little blustering punk that he is.
From the frightened henchman, De Niro turns to a satisfied smile as he recounts the climactic confrontation, where Trump, the arrogant bully, was made into a laughingstock by Kamala Harris on the big stage. Look him straight in the eye. Trump appears as a big but timid guy. Just a sharp look from Harris is enough to start fumbling, like a child being called to the board by the teacher. Totally dominated, De Niro satirizes Trump as a leading actor robbed of the spotlight, standing there stammering while Harris leisurely leads the play. Little blustering punk, a gentle but penetrating label, as if Trump, with all his grandiose threats, is ultimately just a ridiculous supporting role, overshadowed by a smarter opponent. De Niro doesn't need to growl, but he lets this image speak for itself. Trump is not an invincible boss, but a clown who can be easily defeated when facing the right opponent. And from this defeat, the story comes to an end.
Trump doesn't have a clue about anything, about how to lead. He only knows how to bully. And now, thanks to Kamala Harris, we know he can't even do that. Now is the time for all of us to stand up against intimidation.
Finally, after leading us through the journey from loudmouth bully to empty gift dispenser, to boss of henchmen, to the defeated clown, De Niro ends with a slight shake of his head, as if viewing Trump as a washed-up actor, doesn't have a clue about anything. Trump is satirized as a student who skips politics class, only knows how to raise his hand to threaten instead of taking the test. He only knows how to bully, a wink, as if De Niro is saying, he has only one role, but he can't play it well, can't even do that, the pinnacle of irony. Trump is portrayed as a failed bully, losing his main profession after the confrontation with Harris. Stand up against intimidation is a gentle curtain call, as director De Niro invites the audience to leave their seats. Vote to send Trump off the stage, a role that has expired, leaving only faint laughter in the auditorium. Robert De Niro tells the story of Trump like a soap opera, from awkward social media star to inept clown, to deceitful preacher, to dangerous deep actor, to historical question mark. Each act is tightly linked, with gentle but sharp satire, making Trump a figure both laughable and disturbing. De Niro does not shout but skillfully lets the audience see for themselves. Trump is the main actor in the play he wrote and performed. But this stage may have come to an end.